It's Onorato and Miller, divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Classic college football playoff final. 8 versus 7. Who saw that coming? The entire world.
Everybody. Everybody.
Boy, we've got some coaching news in the NFL that's big. We're going to dissect some quarterback play and an awesome divisional round matchup between the top two MVP candidates in Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. It's Chris, it's Ash. Let's go.
This is Onorato and Miller, sponsored by Alpenhaus.
We'll take you inside Alpenhaus during the show here as we start a new year, new gear. No better place to do that than Alpenhaus. Winter is officially here. You can feel it. It looks like it in the capital region, and they've got everything you need for your winter outdoor needs, not just for winter sports people, but just if you need a good winter coat, maybe some snow pants rolling around in the backyard. They've got you covered at Alpenhaus. All right, Ash, you know what? The biggest news of the week, and again, we're live on a Tuesday.
Yep.
If you're catching us on TV over the weekend or somehow recycled on social media, live on a Tuesday once we've gotten through the wild card round of the NFL playoffs and still plenty of time to look ahead to that college football championship game. And only a couple of days into the work week, the biggest news in the NFL, of course, involves the Dallas Cowboys. And we all kind of figured, well, McCarthy will be back in Dallas. And then all of a sudden he wasn't. The contract expires. Reports are that he and Jerry Jones never even really discussed a contract, which to me says they were at odds over the length of the deal, not the money. But McCarthy probably wants some job security that Jerry Jones wasn't willing to give him. And so we start early with Dirty, Difficult, Done.
And now, Dirty, Difficult, and Done. Sponsored by Performance Industrial.
Bill Miller squad at Performance Industrial, where there's never a job that's too dirty or too difficult for them to get it done. Ash, we want Deion Sanders to the Cowboys. Done. As in, we aren't done with the idea of Deion being the head coach of the Cowboys. We want him to be the head coach of the Cowboys. Why?
Because what could be better than Prime back in Big D?
Yeah.
What could be better? What could be better? I just think everyone loves to hate the Cowboys. Who brings more drama and more attention than Deion Sanders? He's done it to college football. And now he has the potential to do it back in Dallas once again, where he spent a lot of his playing career and was the flashy guy that everyone loved to watch and loved to hate. And I just think it would be so great for him to be back in Dallas, see what he can do as an NFL coach. The ascent has been almost mind-blowing.
Yeah, I'm with you. The unfortunate thing is I think this makes too much sense for it to actually come together. I'm pulling up I'll do this in a second. Let's focus on Deion here, and then I'll get to something that Dan Graziano, who's an ESPN NFL insider, put together for .com in terms of who he thinks will fill the remaining vacant coaching positions. Remember, Mike Vrabel already the Patriots here. That's done. Yes, this makes too much sense, I think, for it to actually happen. Like the entire world is going to get excited about this one way or the other. They're either going to be positive or they're going to be negative. Like, oh, of course, Jerry just going to go out and try to make a splash to get a guy like Deion Sanders. Can he really actually coach in the NFL, or is he just a good recruiter? And so he had a Colorado team, maybe in some people's minds overachieve from a program standard this year.
But when's the last time Jerry Jones made a splash with a hire?
Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, or like maybe Bill Parcells at the time was splashy.
Yeah. Yep.
But like, not
different, right? Like Parcells,
Jason Garrett.
Yeah, Parcells in a lot of ways was like, he was the, old hard NFL coach. Jimmy Johnson was the brash personality from college football at the U. You got Deion, brash personality from college at Colorado. Like and remember, they didn't win with Bill Parcells.
Right.
They haven't won since Jimmy Johnson helped construct this team. Barry Switzer was the head coach of the last Super Bowl title team, but those were mostly players that, were still there since Jimmy Johnson. So Jerry's early 80s, I wouldn't play this conservatively now. And what's the downside
to
hiring Deion Sanders? The downside is they finish, 4-13, right? But in Jerry's world, the entire world will still be talking about the Cowboys. And so that's good for business. Whether your record is good, the fact that they will continue to make headlines is good for business as, the number one kind of franchise in the NFL. I don't see a downside here, Ash.
I agree. I mean, look what he did in Colorado. And that was, listen, we're talking about America's team versus a team that was essentially a non-existent college team. He resurrected a non-existent college team. And I know Sam is going to say not a great record, but yes, they sold out the stadium over and over and over and over. If that's all they do and all the talk shows are talking about Dallas once again, I mean, you're losing anyway. You're not in the playoffs. You're not winning playoff games. So you might as well be doing that and have everyone talk about you.
Is he maybe not, Sam asks what makes him a great coach. If you watch Colorado, you can see the in-game strategy, but I will point to what probably makes his best quality as a coach, and he's a great motivator. He is relatable, I think, to a lot of these players. He is a former player who so many of today's current players would have either maybe grown up watching, but probably not really to a degree. I mean, he made it into the early 2000s with his career, but he wasn't great since maybe the late 90s.
No.
But he has enough highlight tape out there, YouTube, wherever people are watching Deion Sanders now, they're finding him. And so I think he can motivate these guys. I think he can relate to these guys. Leon says trade for Tomlin. Tomlin had a quote out today to everybody, save your time. Don't waste your time. Like, he's not going anywhere, and Pittsburgh is not going to fire Mike Tomlin. So this is not going to be a Mike Tomlin type of it. Tomlin makes sense here. But Deion is just the perfect guy. If it isn't Deion, here's who Dan Graziano from ESPN thinks it could be.
Okay.
He is predicting Kellen Moore back to Dallas.
That also makes sense. It makes sense. They could have given him the job long before they did, if that's the case.
Yeah, he was the guy in waiting forever in Dallas, and then finally decided the way a la Mike Hopkins, I'm tired of waiting, and decided to go to the Chargers, and now he's in Philadelphia as the offensive coordinator. So maybe Kellen Moore back to Dallas, but that's just not as much fun.
It's not.
All right, a lot of movement in the coaching carousel. We'll get to that. Carol's checking in. Carol, good to have you. Sam as well, of course. Yes. Brian, how about them Bills? We will get to Buffalo and a huge matchup in the divisional round. That's going to be a lot of fun. Now, Adam is a big Cowboys fan. He says if Deion goes, will Warren Sapp follow? Yeah, my guess is Deion will bring a lot of his coaches, or at least guys like Sapp. And to Sam's point, look, if you question him as a coach, we said he's a great motivator, then he's got to surround himself with NFL experienced coaches. Bottom line, right? And that can be a conversation Jerry has with Deion. Hey, we're gonna make you the head coach, but I want my people to have a little bit of say in who your assistants are. Patriots hire Mike Vrabel.
That was done before it was done.
Yeah, now the NFL is saying, or people or how could they have possibly satisfied the Rooney Rule by
Right.
interviewing 2 minority candidates and getting the Vrabel deal done so quickly? I don't know.
Right.
Bears and Saints expected to interview Mike McCarthy. And where will Ben Johnson land? Let's go to Vrabel here. I thought Vegas was the best head coaching opening. That was before Dallas opened up. I liked the idea of Vegas because of the untapped potential there, the salary cap, and Tom Brady. But Vrabel chooses the Patriots. Whether or not he had an offer from Vegas, I don't know. But what do you think on this hire?
Listen, I think it makes too much sense. Like I said, I thought it was done before it was even done. There was talk of him being kind of the coach in waiting when Belichick left, but then the Gerard Mayo stuff went down and we just postponed it by a year. So yeah, I like it for the Patriots, which I hate for me and the rest of the world because I don't like when the Patriots I think it's a good move for the Patriots. He was really good in Tennessee, probably shouldn't have been fired in Tennessee. I think he's a player's coach. I think guys like playing for him. He's obviously a defensive-minded guy, so it's not going to be a whole lot different, I don't think, than the Gerard Mayo thing. In terms of what he will bring as a head coach, I think he'll be a little bit more of a culture guy, probably just from the back in the day, winning those Vrabel teams were freaking awesome, and Vrabel was kind of the guy behind it all. So I like it for the Patriots.
Yeah, me too. I mean, he's a stabilizing figure after the Kraft said Gerard Mayo just wasn't ready. Okay, well, there's going to be nobody more ready, right, than Mike Vrabel, who's done it for a while and as you said, to solid success with a Titans franchise. But I wonder, without Belichick and Brady together, right, not just one or the other, without Belichick and Brady together, what have the Patriots done? So what are they really? And how much trust should we put in them that they're going to turn this around? I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. They've got Drake May now, and maybe Vrabel and May are teamed up for the next decade, and they find a way to win a few divisions. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Mike McCarthy, and I really do believe this. I think Mike McCarthy is the best offensive-minded coach option behind Ben Johnson. So if a team wants Ben Johnson and doesn't get Ben Johnson, I think Mike McCarthy is your best offensive-minded coach out there. Bears want Ben Johnson, don't get him, hire Mike McCarthy. Saints aren't going to get Ben Johnson.
Yeah,
Mike McCarthy feels like a good option for New Orleans there. But what is their quarterback situation? I think the idea of hiring Mike McCarthy is we've got a quarterback we like. We need somebody to bring him along. McCarthy can do that. He revived Favre in Green Bay. He gets a lot of the credit, I think, for bringing Aaron Rodgers along early in his career. And the Cowboys have had a top 3 offense for all of McCarthy's seasons in Dallas when Dak is healthy. The guy can coach. Yeah. Now, you may not like his sideline personality or press conference demeanor, and he may not excite you because he's a young, up-and-coming coach, or he's a Mike Tomlin type of defensive guy. But Mike McCarthy can coach here, and I think find me the last successful Dallas Cowboys coach. That's been a little bit of a negative on McCarthy here. Like, he's won a lot of regular season games. And to your point, like, but what has he done in the playoffs? Even in Green Bay, he struggled a little bit. And obviously he did in Dallas as well. But I think if you're Chicago, and I just need somebody to make sure Caleb Williams doesn't sink here early in his career, McCarthy would be a smart hire for them. Now, let me just throw this at you too, Ash. Again, Graziano of ESPN, he's an insider. He says Brian Flores would be his pick for next Bears head coach. You got to hire another defensive guy?
I know.
How many times do you do this in Chicago?
I know.
It's not working.
If you can get, I'm not saying you're going to get Cliff Kingsbury because you won't. He'll be a head coaching name that comes up. Whether or not he gets a head coaching job, I'm not sure. He would be smart. If he's going to be an OC, he would be smart to stay in Washington where he is. But yeah, you've got to bring in a Cliff Kingsbury type offensive coordinator who has the mind and is going to really excel on that side of the ball. If that's not what you're bringing when you hire a guy like Brian Flores, who I think could be a really good head coach, and was in Miami.
Yep.
So I like the hire. I don't know if I like it for Chicago.
All right. We'll get to Ben Johnson here a second. I like this question from Adam. Is it a players' league now, the NFL? We saw the NBA become that, right? Where you had to be a coach that was going to connect with these guys, and it's a players' league. So we don't need somebody coming in here with a heavy hand dictating. I need a coach that relates to these players and can bring them along. What do you think?
Oh, that's tough. I think it's a little bit of yes and no for me. It's no longer a Bill Belichick type of league.
And is Mike Tomlin that?
I don't think he's quite that, but I would say like Mike McCarthy, Mike Tomlin, Mike Vrabel. Those aren't guys who, while I'm sure guys like to play for them, those aren't guys who you see like going wild on the sideline. They're not Dan Campbell. They're not Kevin O'Connell. They're not Sean McVay. They're not those kinds of player coaches who seem like they're like buddy with the guys and just like in their faces all the time, hyping them up. It's a different kind of, it's almost just kind of a more calm demeanor. And that feels like a Brian Flores type too, is like the guys who are just like a little more chill on the sidelines, who guys like to play for, but it's not quite the same.
Now, we don't really know what Ben Johnson is or isn't
Right.
at this point. Where does Ben Johnson, let me just, yes or no, is Ben Johnson a head coach next season in the NFL?
I mean, I'd say yes, but I think I probably said yes the last 2 off seasons, and he chose not to go anywhere.
Do you think he regrets saying no to Washington?
I would if I was him. I mean,
like, you don't know you're going to have Jaden Daniels, and you don't
Right.
know that Jaden Daniels is going to be Rookie of the Year, but boy.
I know, but and here's the thing: if I think Vrabel's in a good position because he took what he wanted, and now that's off the market. The problem is if pieces start to fall, and the Saints is the only job. You know what I mean? Like the Saints and the Raiders are the only jobs you have left. It's another matter of like, if the Saints is the only job left for Ben Johnson, is that the job you're putting your head on when it comes to your first head coaching job in the NFL? I don't want it.
Sam says Brady wants Johnson for the Raiders. And again, back to this Dan Graziano piece on ESPN, he says he thinks Johnson to the Raiders.
I wonder how many of these he's going to get right. Probably not many.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Let me see how many he's got here.
Yeah.
Bears, Cowboys, Jaguars, Raiders, Saints,
What's the Jags?
Jets. How many did I just count? 6?
Give me them all.
Well, he says Flores to Chicago. He says Kellen Moore to Dallas. He says Joe Brady to Jacksonville. Ben Johnson to the Raiders. Aaron Glenn to the Saints.
I love that. If
Arthur
it's going to be someone,
Smith
it might as well be
to the
Glenn.
Jets. So again,
that?
that's Dan Graziano on ESPN.com. Arthur Smith to the Jets.
I don't like that.
Wow. How many times we do this all the time, right? We feel like coaches are being, cycled back through.
Mm-hmm.
And then I always kind of say, okay, if not them, then who? Right. And
like Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson would be a first-time guy.
Sure. He's going to the Raiders, though. If the Jets can't get what I'm saying is, right, we can't all get Ben Johnson. So if
how about a guy like
coach, what do we do?
Mike Shula, who just coached his face off against the Minnesota Vikings and has that Rams defense playing as good as any in the league right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm sure there are plenty of options. And I just threw out the one that I, was just watching last night. There are plenty of coordinators, offensive or defensive, who excel. And listen, a lot of times special teams guys are some of the best head coaches that you get.
Yeah. Spears, he wants to know, what about Anthony Weaver? Anthony Weaver is on many teams' lists to be interviewed. Boy, it felt like he was close last year to getting a head coaching job. I don't think it's going to happen this time around. And I just, unfortunately, he helps teams satisfy the Rooney Rule, right? I've got to interview 2 minority coaching candidates, put Weaver on the list, put Flores on the list, and we're good to go. And we go hire anybody we want now. I understand the purpose of the Rooney Rule. I also just think that in some ways it's disrespectful to legitimate head coaching candidates who maybe just get run through the room to satisfy some sort of minimum requirement.
Listen,
it was
I think at
icy
the end of
between
the day-
Rodgers and McCarthy in Green Bay. This is not going to keep him with the Jets. If you want him out of the Jets organization, you hire Mike McCarthy.
Right. Listen, when it comes to Anthony Weaver, I think, were the Dolphins really great on defense this year? It's a different story. They weren't. Like, it's not like they had I'm not sure about it. My guess is they didn't have a top 10 defense in the league.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
You know what we say about things we say that we don't know. Probably not a good idea. But if everyone would have been talking about him if the Dolphins defense was that good. And I think that's when you start to get the interviews.
All right, hang with us. In 10 minutes, we're going to look ahead to the college football national championship game, Ohio State and Notre Dame. Big spread. Should it be, or will it be, that big of a gap come game time between the Irish and the Buckeyes? What do the Vikings do about Sam Darnold, given his last two performances? Will that sour the Minnesota organization on a potential long-term contract? Are the Chargers' problems deeper than simply the head coaching position? This playoff time, they didn't look any different than the other appearances we've seen despite hiring a guy like Jim Harbaugh. And that showdown between Lamar and Josh in Buffalo on Sunday is going to be a great one. We're back right after this on Onorato and Miller, taking you inside Alpenhaus. Hang on, everybody. We'll be back in 1 minute.
As Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on for cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair. You can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day, like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
Great memories start with Alpenhaus. Amsterdam, Clifton Park, and High Adventure in Latham.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Alpenhaus.
Inside Alpenhaus now, Route 30 in Amsterdam, the ski shop. It feels more, looks more like winter in the capital region now than the last time we were out here. So all of your winter sports needs, even if you just want to play sports, you need snow pants, a big winter jacket, boots. They've got you covered here at Alpenhaus. And like I said, the last time we were here, what better time to restock the patio or the deck with new furniture? Now is the time. The sales are unbeatable. Come check out Alpenhaus, Route 30 in Amsterdam. Clifton Park store as well with some of your winter needs. All right. I want to look back on Wild Card Weekend. Ash and I will have covered coaching vacancies. We'll have our picks for the divisional round and, of course, the national championship game. But I want to look back at Wild Card Weekend and some of the bad quarterback performances we saw. That includes my Packers, right? Jordan Love just did not play well. But let's start with what Justin Herbert did or didn't do. I mean, what he did was throw 4 interceptions. What he didn't do is kind of remove the stigma that he can't win a big playoff game, that maybe this is a franchise issue currently. Thought changing the head coach to Harbaugh was going to fix everything. They were terrible on Saturday afternoon. Herbert throws 4 interceptions. One of them was a pick 6. You just can't do it. And so at what point do we start to criticize Herbert's inability to win a playoff game? It's funny how we see, and look, I'm as hard as anybody on a superstar, right, who has great regular season success and then can't win in the playoffs or can't win a title. That's why Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen get knocked as much as they do. But Herbert has all of the physical tools to not deliver in the postseason at some point, right? That is just going to stick with him as it has already. And CJ Stroud now has more playoff wins than any other Texans quarterback. He's got 2 of them. That's the most in that franchise history. And for all the love that we would have shown Jim Harbaugh, like, let's not forget how good of a coach DeMeco Ryans clearly is. And so Houston wins that home game. They have to go to Kansas City again. Now, after that, can they win at Arrowhead? I don't think so. But let's see. Let's see if there's some big playability with Nico Collins and Joe Mixon that maybe the Houston can put a little bit of a scare into Kansas City, a team that lost 1 game, right? And yet we all feel like, well, are they really that good? 1 game that mattered anyway, right? Are they really that good? They've got home field, and my money would be on them to defend that home field all the way into the Super Bowl. We'll get to those picks. Okay. So Herbert throws the 4 picks. Jordan Love throws 3 picks. And if you were at my house Sunday watching that game against the Eagles, you get tired of me saying things like, that's a throw Favre would make, not Rodgers. I mean, 3 interceptions in a game. I don't know if Rodgers ever did that in his career in Green Bay. Certainly not in a playoff game. And so throws where he wasn't seeing a defender underneath who picked it off, missing throws because he didn't step into it. He's doing too much of this off the back foot, flip the wrist type of stuff. All, again, same as Herbert, right? Clearly all the talent in the world. But when it's time to deliver and win a big game, not great at San Francisco last year in the AFC Championship game, albeit a missed field goal from Anders Carlson could have changed things. Yes, Brandon McManus misses a field goal at Philadelphia as well that may have changed some things. But ultimately, the quarterback play just was not good enough, right? So that's back-to-back postseason games now where Love was underwhelming after being great at Dallas in his first ever postseason start. Those, to me, are the biggest quarterback takeaways. Young quarterbacks, franchise quarterbacks, getting paid a ton of money, not delivering in the big moment, and then teams being able to win despite their quarterbacks not being great. Start with Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts, the numbers, not overwhelming, right? You look at what Josh Allen really didn't have to do just because of time of possession. 272 yards and 2 touchdowns, still impressive from Allen. But really, to me, it was just the way that the Bills were able to control the clock. James Cook, 120 yards and a touchdown. That team is scary right now. It feels like this Buffalo team is different, that they can go anywhere and win in the playoffs, as opposed to having to put everything on Josh Allen in previous years. Not the case. Now, if they lose a playoff game, everyone would say, well, they don't have the weapons. They don't have that dominant receiver that Allen can lean on. And that's how I feel about the Packers, right? You see the injuries. Watson missed the game. Dobbs goes out. Reed goes out. And even still, it just feels like got to get a real game breaker for Jordan Love to try to make a little bit easier on him. Spreading the ball around is great, but instead of have a collection of B to B plus guys, imagine adding an A in. Look at how the Eagles took off once they got A.J. Brown. So all of this, hey, maybe it's better to not have an alpha. Maybe it's not better to have a true number one. I don't really buy into that. Depends on the number one for sure. Like, I don't want George Pickens or Stephon Diggs to be my number one. But certain guys just elevate an offense, and that feels like what Green Bay is lacking. It's what people are going to say if Buffalo doesn't find a way to win this weekend against Baltimore and then next weekend, presumably, at Kansas City, right? Okay. Lamar Jackson's otherworldly. I cannot wait for this Bills-Ravens game. Jackson just looks like he's in complete command right now. And remember, the Steelers' defense is pretty good. And he was just toying with them on Saturday night. I can't wait for that matchup in Buffalo. 6:30 Sunday. Yes, one I can actually stay up for. It's early enough anyway. And yes, the knock will be that the losing quarterback can't win a big game. or go deep enough into the playoffs. But these are the top 2 MVP candidates in the NFL this year. Saquon Barkley probably finishes 3rd. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I give Baltimore every shot that I give Buffalo on its own home field. So let's see how that goes. Jaden Daniels, what more do we need to say about this guy? I mean, for a rookie quarterback to just be as composed in any late game comeback situation that we can remember. I mean, I'm not going to say he's like Mahomes, okay? But the idea that Washington just has full confidence. Tie game, let's go win the thing, right? We're not playing for overtime. Let's go win the thing. He has had so many special moments late in the fourth quarter this season. Man, what is the ceiling for him? Clearly going to be Rookie of the Year, but 268 through the air, 2 touchdowns, and leading that game-winning drive via Stoink field goal to give the Commanders their first playoff win since 2006. And I think they only have a handful, maybe 4 playoff wins since they won the Super Bowl in 1991, a franchise that really, really needed it. Ash and I know we'll have talked about Sam Darnold and what the prospects are for his future after back-to-back underwhelming games, right? The regular season finale loss at Detroit, and then this one in Arizona to the Rams, and Matthew Stafford just still looks like he is, as good as advertised. He is a Hall of Famer for sure. It's all about the quarterback. And I know we've fallen in love again with the running back in the league, and I love that. I love that now more running backs are getting the carries. I don't know if they're going to get the contracts, but they're getting the carries. They're playing a vital role in their team's success. But it comes down to the quarterback. No question about it. All right, we'll take a break here on Onorato and Miller. We're back in a minute.
Snow is flying, and there's nothing sweeter than a powder day. Make sure you're ready to conquer the mountain during our Powder Day sale at Alpenhaus. Find the perfect setup with a great selection of equipment from the industry's top ski and snowboard manufacturers. Not to mention the gear that'll keep you warm and stylish with an incredible offering from the apparel brands you love. Layer up for less with discounts on skis, snowboards, boots, and gear with up to 30% off select items. It's our Powder Day sale, January 18th to the 20th. Get outside and play with Alpenhaus.
I'm Jeff Ukelek. I'm owner of Bev's, and we're a beverage center in upstate New York. You're just gonna have that wow component when you come in, like, wow, look at this place. It's bright, it's clean, it has everything that I need. Consumer is king. Be able to provide them a friendly environment and a place to shop, no matter where they are, whether they're down here in Saratoga or whether they're up in Queensbury. You're always gonna get the same experience when you shop at Bev's. At the end of the day, if you walk in these stores, you're gonna see a lot of people that have a lot of pride.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Alpenhaus.
All right, Ash, back live now on Onorato and Miller. We'll go back inside Alpenhaus later on in the show. But let's talk more about what we saw. Go ahead.
I got something for you.
All right.
Like any good, on-air person would, I looked up what I said. So here you go, Dave Spears. Not all of it is in my favor, but we'll start with, the Miami defense. I had said I don't think they were top 10 in the league. Otherwise, Anthony Weaver gets talked about more. Well, how important is yards per game to you for a defense?
Not as important as points per game.
So yards per game, 4th best in the league, which is pretty good, 314. Points per game, 21.4, 10th best. Here's where it gets bad for a defense. Turnovers, total turnovers, 10 interceptions, 6 fumbles, 27th best in the league. Yeah. So they don't turn the ball over. And the other 2 aren't bad, but if you're on points per game and just not forcing turnovers, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of love. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I said to you, hey, you're going to give up 21 points a week, how many of those games are you going to win with Tua, Tyreek, Jalen, right? Like, I mean,
21 is kind of the.
If the quarterback stayed healthy all year, maybe we look at that team a little differently. They were close. They had a shot at making the playoffs going into week 18.
Yep.
And if Tua were healthy, they probably make the playoffs, right? Yep. If they had him all season long.
Yeah.
All right. Good research there.
You stalled for me.
What did we see from Sam Darnold the last two appearances? At Detroit, Week 18, not good.
Not good.
If you just look at the numbers of that game against the Rams, and by the way, we should have talked about Jared first here at the beginning.
Not his fault.
If you just look at the numbers here against the Rams in that wild card game, not bad, right?
Not his fault. I mean, none of that was his fault.
But 9 sacks.
And that's it. He was running for his life. It felt like every single play. Running for his life.
But at what point does Kevin O'Connell say to Sam Darnold, or vice versa, does Sam Darnold say to the head coach, guys, we are getting killed up front. Mm-hmm. Can we find some quick throws, please? Right. And maybe the Rams were just so good on the back end that there wasn't anything there in the secondary, right? Like, we can talk about the pass rush, and we can also talk about the coverage here, mm-hmm. or the lack of strategy from the Vikings. Anyway, how much will those two games play a role in what Darnold does or doesn't get from the Vikings? If you're Minnesota, mm-hmm. are you giving him a contract longer than 2 years?
Well, definitely not. I don't know that I'm giving him a contract, period. I guess that depends on how J.J. McCarthy's knee is looking. You're hitched to J.J. McCarthy anyway. He will cost you a lot less money because he's on a rookie deal.
Yeah.
Let Sam try to go get money somewhere else. I've said it almost seems like you can kind of plug and play in Minnesota. I know he's very different than Kirk Cousins is very different than J.J. McCarthy. But what we saw from him in Detroit was bad him. I mean, but that was the kind of bad game that was like he was just overshooting everyone. He mm-hmm. literally couldn't hit a guy in the hands, which that doesn't, when that happens, it happens, but it doesn't happen every game. Like that's not going to be something he can't fix. I'm still not giving it to him because I can play JJ McCarthy despite the knee injury. As long as he comes back healthy, I can pay him a lot less and see what happens. He's a lot younger too.
I mean, I say franchise tag Sam Darnold and let McCarthy and Darnold duke it out in training camp. Mm-hmm. And if McCarthy's healthy and wins the job, then you've got a really capable backup in Sam Darnold.
Yep.
And if McCarthy isn't healthy, then you've got a guy who clearly has shown he can win 14 games. They won 14 games.
I know.
With Sam Darnold. The guy can play in this system, right? I don't know if it's plug and play or not, but the guy can play in this system.
How about this? I saw something just like 5 minutes ago on the internet. It's a great place. Daniel Jones killed the Vikings. Ever since they signed him.
Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in the AFC Divisional round here. They are the top 2 MVP candidates. I don't know who finishes first or who finishes second, but these guys will go 1-2.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful thing to get. Now we'd love to have it with the Super Bowl on the line, but I'd hate to exclude the Chiefs from that type of opportunity. And so give us this one, and then we're guaranteed to get either Josh or Lamar at Arrowhead next week to take on Mahomes, which is awesome.
Take it easy. CJ Stroud's going to show up and play a game,
Yeah, well, they're not going to win. This is going to be a lot of fun. And maybe just an early lean here for you without making a pick, like, which of these two quarterbacks do you trust more? Let me ask you that. Which two quarterbacks do you trust more in this big spot?
I don't know if I trust either one. So I'm going to save my key to that game for my pick. Because for me, it's not either quarterback that is going to be the X factor.
They're both playing off the charts. I mean, Lamar has 2 MVPs already, but this was his best statistical season.
I mean, by a long shot.
By a long shot.
Which is mind-blowing.
And Allen, although the numbers aren't as gaudy, he has done things this season that quarterbacks have never done before. Speaking of QBs, do the Chargers' problems run deeper than simply the head coaching position? Everybody thought, hey, just change the head coach, and you're going to win some important games in January. Well, they did that, and they got arguably the best coach on the market last year in Jim Harbaugh, and that was a pathetic playoff performance by Justin Herbert.
It was. But here's the deal. Brandon Staley lost them games last year single-handedly, and the year before that.
Yep.
Jim Harbaugh did not do that. So for me, it's you've already won.
Which is why I posed the question.
Yeah.
Are the problems bigger? Like, is Herbert just not going to be the guy? Or do you not love their offensive weapons, right? Like,
I don't know.
The O-line, not great. Receivers, underwhelming. Ladd McConkey had a nice rookie season, but Quentin Johnston has struggled since coming out of TCU. My guess is they feel the need to go get a real number one for him at the receiver position.
Yeah, and I think you give Harbaugh a couple years with Herbert, and let him put weapons around him. So yeah, I think you kind of wait to see how that plays out. I think Herbert's their guy. I mean, I don't know that anyone throws a ball like Justin Herbert in the NFL, just how he can just like kind of flick it and it goes 65 yards. So yeah, I think Herbert's the guy. So to your point.
Oh, go back to Alpenhaus after this here. Steelers are 0-5 in their last 5 playoff games, and that's over an 8-season span. I understand this is a proud organization that doesn't fire head coaches often, and I love Mike Tomlin as much as anybody, but they haven't been able to figure out the quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger, and it's clearly plaguing them here. You cannot bring Russell Wilson back next year and think you're going to win important games. It's just not going to happen. So if you're going to keep Tomlin, you better get a new quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because despite the fact that they're like such a storied franchise, I almost think that they've gotten to the point where it's like, well, we play in a really tough division. We've got Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, and like, as long as we're good enough and we make the playoffs every once in a while, okay. I feel like that's what it's gotten to, because otherwise Mike Tomlin wouldn't have a job anymore. Let's just be clear. Like, if that stat line was an issue, he wouldn't be their head coach. And he is. So that some of what I just said has to be true. Yeah. Like, we're happy enough with where we've been. Which is not.
You're just settled on stability.
Yep.
Right? Like, you look around the league and you say, look at all these other franchises that change head coaches every 1, 2, maybe 3 years. Are they any better than they?
Right.
No.
Right.
And
this
we're
is
making the playoffs.
Team. That's not a Steelers team that's winning 3 games. It's a Steelers team that's pretty consistently a game below 500, and every other season makes the playoffs.
Yeah.
For a lot, you ask a lot of franchises in the NFL, and they would sign up for that tomorrow.
Yeah. All right, quick time out here on Onorato and Miller. When we come back, we go back inside Alpenhaus Cooper Flag with 42 points. Not only a Duke freshman record, but an ACC freshman record. And then on the other side of that, we give our picks for the upcoming divisional round weekend and college football national championship. Back on Onorato and Miller.
I'm Jeff Fukelek. I'm owner of Bevs, and we're a beverage center in upstate New York. You're just going to have that wow component when you come in, like, wow, look at this place. It's bright, it's clean, it has everything that I need. Consumer is king. Be able to provide them a friendly environment and a place to shop, no matter where they are, whether they're down here in Saratoga or whether they're up in Queensbury. You're always going to get the same experience when you shop at Bevs. At the end of the day, if you walk in these stores, you're going to see a lot of people that have a lot of pride.
The great thing about Novice is no matter who you are, they're going to put all the detail in the world into your brand. I feel like they have been a big part of my success, making me feel comfortable.
This is Harrison Butker, Super Bowl champion kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. Claim your crown.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Alpenhaus.
Back on Onorato and Miller and back at Alpenhaus, Route 30, Amsterdam. Did you catch Cooper Flagg's ACC freshman record, 42 points? Here's what I'm so impressed by, right? And we forget that he's 18 years old, a freshman. And when somebody comes into college or the league, wherever it is, right, professionally, with so much fanfare, the expectation is that right out of the gate, game one and every game after is going to be greatness. And so that's why when Flagg had those late game turnovers earlier this season against Kansas and then Kentucky, or other way around, people were losing their minds. Oh, forget it. This kid's shrinking in big moments. Let's remember, first time on the big stage, right? Give him a little bit of grace and an opportunity to mature. And that's what we are now seeing here. 42 points against the Notre Dame team that isn't great, obviously, but it's an ACC freshman record. Next to, the soft spot I have in my heart for the Big East back in the day. I mean, the ACC is blue blood basketball. So to think that Cooper Flagg has a conference freshman record in terms of scoring points per game, come on, let's give him some of his due. 4 of 6 from downtown. He's efficient, but he also affects the game in so many different ways. He doesn't need to get you 30 to win. He doesn't need to get you 25 to win. Sure, you'd love to have it, but he is so good in so many other ways that it was fun to watch him pop off for 42. If he isn't the number one pick, I think somebody is evaluating the talent and the ceiling incorrectly here. The guy just does so many things on the basketball court so well. That was cool to see him do that. One thing I want to hit on here, and I'll say kind of the local tie, right, is that, Novice, one of our partners here on the show, and one of the best clothing companies that I've ever experienced, and that includes the best of the best globally. I mean, the stuff that Novice makes is incredible. But they have that connection to Cooper Flagg. Garrett and Nick Bernardo went to college at Maine. Cooper Flagg is from Maine. They've become friendly with the Flagg family, and they've outfitted Maine United, which was an AAU basketball team that Cooper played on. One other local thing here I want to hit on the sports world, Jeff Hoffman, relief pitcher, gets a 3-year, $33 million deal. It could be worth upwards of 39 if he hits all incentives. So those 3 years, he's got an opportunity to earn $2 million more each of those 3 years to go to the Blue Jays, the team that drafted him. Never played for the Blue Jays. They traded him to Colorado on a Troy Tulowitzki deal, but Hoffman has a career year in the bullpen in Philadelphia and is rewarded for it now in his early 30s to get a 3-year contract like this to potentially close games for Toronto. We keep waiting for this Blue Jays organization to figure it out, make the playoffs. Does it stay the way it is with Bo Bichette and Vladdy Jr., Springer? We'll see. But Hoffman gets a payday that is certainly well-deserved. All right, back in another minute here on Onorato and Miller.
At Marcella's Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on. For cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair, you can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day. Like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
The great thing about Novice is no matter who you are, they're going to put all the detail in the world into your brand. I feel like they have been a big part of my success, making me feel comfortable.
This is Harrison Butker, Super Bowl champion kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. Claim your crown.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Alphen House.
All right, Ash, back live now, and our picks still to come. Before we really jump into that, though, I want to take a look at this national championship game in college football before we kind of make our pick. You got the 8 seed, Ohio State, favored by 8.5. Different in some books. It opened at 9 or 9.5. It's 8.5 and 8, depending upon where you look now. The 8 seed against the 7 seed. And I wonder, these are two Midwest schools, obviously, Big Ten country, even though Notre Dame is independent. And I feel like, okay, we're going to get a monster rating. But I do wonder if, half of the country or 2/3 of the country is turned off, be it SEC country and then the West as well. Or are these blue bloods enough where if Duke and North Carolina played in the college basketball national championship game, people across the country are going to watch because it's Duke and North Carolina. Notre Dame is a national brand. They're the only team with a national TV contract exclusive to them. And so I don't know. Is this going to be as popular of a matchup as I think it is?
I don't know. The way that you kind of explained it, I did think, if for no other reason than they hate Ohio State and they hate Notre Dame, like I could see SEC fans just being like, you know what? Forget it. If you're a football fan, you want to see this game until it's not a game anymore, which I think is a possibility. And if that happens, I think you know which way it goes. But I think this is going to be a good game.
All right, Sam's throwing a prediction in here early, and I'm going to push back on only one side of it. I think if Notre Dame gives up more than 24 points, they don't win this game. Notre Dame wins this game by controlling the clock, running the ball well, which they haven't done since that Indiana game. And even that Indiana game, save for the 98-yard Love touchdown run, they have not run the ball particularly well. Riley Leonard did against Georgia, but as a team, they've not been great. So if they can't run the ball against Ohio State, that could be a long day. I think more than 24 given up by that defense is going to be tough for Riley Leonard and the offense to handle it. Troy says, until Notre Dame joins the conference, they suck. Okay. The conference thing is, did I go off on this last week? I think it's just kind of funny to me the way people hate. If we know nothing else about college football in 2025, it is what? That conferences no longer matter. You have USC and UCLA playing in the Big Ten. You have Texas and Oklahoma playing in the SEC. You have Stanford playing in the ACC.
Yeah. I mean, they matter.
The alignment of conferences do not matter. And I've said it before, they won't exist for very long. And then what are people going to say?
That's it. I think if they don't exist for very long, then you're right. They don't matter. But if they continue to go on, and I've said this before, I think Notre Dame's going to get itself in a little bit of trouble because teams aren't going to schedule them anymore. My computer keeps asking me to test Zoom. I would not like to test Zoom.
I kind of heard that little boop. Maybe you're right.
People are jealous. People are jealous.
Of course they are, because if I said to you, hey, I'm going to give you $100 million.
Right. You want all of it yourself or you want to share it with other people? I want all of it myself. Thanks.
Exactly.
But then you can't complain when people don't want to play you anymore. So good luck.
I agree. Yeah, let's see. That's a really interesting.
I don't think it will happen this year, obviously, but like in the coming years, if it's going to work against teams to play other good teams out of conference, they're not going to do it. And guess what? You're not in a conference.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Be hoping you don't lose to Southern and Northern Illinois.
This is what last week looked like. Yeah, this is what last week looked like in the NFL. We both went 2-0 in the college football playoff semifinal games. Overall, I was 4-4. You were 6-2, Ash.
Smoking hot.
Big week after a 1-5 to a 6-2. That's a big bounce back.
That is.
All right, we are picking 5 total games, 4 in the NFL.
6 total games.
Say again?
Oh, 5. You're right. Sorry.
What game am I missing here? Oh, yeah. Okay. We start with the NFL.
Okay.
Texans and Chiefs. What do the Texans do best? They play Saturday afternoon playoff games at Kansas City. We both like the Chiefs here. It's more than a touchdown.
It's only a half point more than a touchdown, so I'm good with it.
Okay. You were leaning a little like, hey, CJ Stroud's got a game to.
Well, I just was saying, you basically were like, the Chiefs are in the AFC Championship game. Like, all right, well, let's take it easy, would you? I'm not saying they're going to, I don't know that they're going to win, but they're going to show up and play. You never know.
Sure. Okay.
A lot of people thought the Chargers would go in there and take care of business.
Yeah, but not the way I know Andy Reid off a bye week is going to take care of business at home.
I understand.
Right? Yeah. Commanders and Lions here. Look, Detroit's going to win this game. For me, the spread was just too big. Detroit's defense, especially in the secondary, I think Jaden Daniels will expose that. So Detroit at home, I've said for how many weeks now, if you can't score 38, you're not going to win. This team feels like it's 35 almost guaranteed every single time they take the home field. But Jaden and company, I think, can get to the high 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So Commanders to keep this thing within one score.
I hope this is a good game because it's two of the best stories in the NFL, bar none. So I love the idea of either one of these teams being – the problem is I can't get on board with the Commanders being in a conference championship game just yet. I don't feel like I like the idea of the Lions being in a conference championship. I love them, the idea of them being in a Super Bowl, to be quite honest. But yeah, Jaden Daniels is fun. The Commanders are much improved. I don't think they can keep up with the offense of the Lions.
Right. I would agree. Jaden Daniels is
so fun.
This guy's unreal. He's unreal.
The doink was awesome.
Rams and Eagles, Sunday at 3, News Channel 13. I'm on Philly here. Look, they didn't play well against Green Bay, or maybe the Packers defense played that well. I don't know, but they still won by 12.
Yep.
The injuries on defense to Philadelphia, how big of a factor is that here? But, I'd look at the weather. Like, I don't know what the weather's – but give me Philly outdoors, okay, against this Rams team, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now the Eagles get Barkley going a little bit here. Quick shout out, Jared Verse returns a fumble for a touchdown. Man, that guy ran like a tight end into the end zone. It was the fastest. This is a stupid stat. It was the fastest a defensive player had run with the ball since, I don't know, maybe like the 1970 merger or something crazy like that.
What?
He blazed. Maybe it was a defensive end stat. I don't know. He ran really fast. Okay,
that's an interesting stat. I am just going to ride the hot team. I like to do this a lot in the NFL playoffs. There aren't a lot of teams who I feel better about than the Rams right now. I think it's a team you don't want to play. That defense, the Eagles are going to be watching that film like crazy because I understand it's Jalen Hurts and not Sam Darnold that they're playing against, but the Eagles did not look great against the Packers. So,
yeah, because what can Hurts do that Darnold can't move? Ravens and Bills, and this thing oscillated. So I'm putting it here as a pick-em-ash because it opened as a 1.5-point favorite in Buffalo's side, and now it swung in some books Ravens by a point. So let's just make it a pick-em here because Vegas seems pretty undecided about it as well. I'm on the home team. You're on the Ravens. Why?
Derrick Henry. Done and done. Because I think the quarterbacks they almost cancel each other out for me.
Yeah. And Baltimore's defense, second half of the season, has really come along. Yeah. Zach Orr was like getting killed early on this year because of that defense not performing. And then we both like Notre Dame to win or to cover.
No, to cover. I mean, I thought about still taking Ohio State. It's just a little too big at this point for as well as Notre Dame's been playing.
All right, here's a quick recap before we say goodbye here on Onorato and Miller. I'm with you. It's just maybe too many points in a national championship game. But then again, what have we seen in title games lately in college football? Blowouts. Thanks for watching Onorato and Miller, everyone.